Welcome, one and all, to our very first playoff streaming episode here on Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. I am Dan Besbris, at Dan Besbris on Twitter, DanBesbris. It's on your screen if you're watching us. Old Man Squad is the handle over on Blue Sky. Give a follow at those. Like, rate, and subscribe as you're settling in. Let's talk playoff basketball. Today is day one of the sixth to last week of the NBA regular season. This is the day that myself, and I've mentioned it before, our good buddy Josh Lloyd, I know that many of the fantasy analysts that have podcasts and have written content have suggested starting your playoffs today. You wipe out the final 3 weeks of the regular season. It doesn't fix everything entirely. There's still going to be silly season stuff before then, but you take out a bulk of it. By removing those 3 weeks, you remove, 70 to 80% of the silly season nonsense. This year, there's really no way to eliminate the pre-tanking. The Utah Jazz, for instance, running their JV squad half the time and their varsity squad half the time. A lot of teams just resting dudes on half of every back-to-back pretty much from the outset. You've got plenty of teams that are just trying to lose on purpose. And you can't eliminate half of an NBA season. You can try to draft carefully and avoid teams that you think are going to be tanking. But if you're just trying to make your fantasy playoffs as fair as humanly possible without ruining your regular season by shortening it to 9 weeks, this is the week to start your playoffs. But I also know that not everybody starts their playoffs this week. A lot of leagues start next week. I think Yahoo starts the week after that, if I'm not mistaken. Some of you crazy maniacs even start third to the end and play right to the very last day. So what we're doing here on Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball is a streaming guide that tackles day of and day before every day from now until basically the end of the regular season. Allow me to show you what I mean so you'll have a better idea of what I'm talking about. Here it is, your fantasy basketball playoff streaming guide. I decided to have Microsoft Word in web layout mode. I was hoping that I could, there we go, get rid of that top bar there. This is a playoff streaming guide for Monday, March 3rd and Tuesday, March 4th. So today and tomorrow, today's Monday, tomorrow's Tuesday, we're going to look at each one of them because I know some of you have day of moves. If you're in, a personal league where you're the commissioner, like me, those moves are day of. And I feel like in head-to-head, it would be really nice if every league was day of moves. It's really nice to be able to make a move after you get an injury report. But again, we can't all be so lucky. So you get what you get. You don't get upset. Again, other stuff on the screen right now that you guys can see is mostly promo. But let's scroll down a little bit so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Here's the way this thing is breaking down. We're going to start with teams to target for Monday, players to target for Monday, then teams to target for Tuesday, and players to target for Tuesday. And I try to have a helpful graphic going because, first of all, it'll be nice for me. I can pretty much just work off it like PowerPoint slides. But also for you guys, you can see it, you can internalize it, you can fast forward and rewind, and you can see the graphic. And it's going to speed up the shows. I'm not bouncing around between a bunch of different tabs and trying to make sure that I have all the names listed. I got that done ahead of time. So, for instance, and again, we're going to do this show. Today is a show, but we talked a little bit about what to do on Monday on our weekly preview show. And that's okay. In fact, every single day is going to get covered twice. That's the other footnote on all of this. We covered Monday yesterday and today. We're covering Tuesday today, and we'll cover it again tomorrow. So there's kind of an opportunity. I mean, I guess I could do this show every other day, but that's dumb because news breaks overnight. Certain guys get ruled in or out. That actually changes who the targets are. So, for instance, teams to target on Monday. The Atlanta Hawks, because they have a back-to-back Monday, Tuesday. They go 3 games in 4 nights because they play again on Thursday. And they go 4 games in 6 nights because they play again on Saturday. The Golden State Warriors have the exact same schedule, as do the Houston Rockets. Those are 3 of the best teams to target today, Monday. The next rung down, and shout out to Microsoft Word for turning it into a fraction. And, oh, look, we can actually undo that on the screen. The Philadelphia 76ers are also a team that you could consider. They have a back-to-back today, tomorrow. They also play again on Thursday for the 3 games in 4 nights, but they don't play for a couple days after that. So Thursday would be as far as you'd want to hold your Philadelphia 76er. Who are you going to pick when you choose your players from these 4 teams? Well, I'll tell you after I remind you that BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting in 2025. They've got every sport you could think of with odds, stats, and more, covering every game, every play, and for you and me, every win. We're talking NBA, college hoops, NHL, UFC, baseball's coming back around. We'll have women's sports, we'll have golf, we'll have tennis, we'll have prop bets, we'll have in-game betting opportunities. We've got it all. The football, of course, over at BetOnline. So whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline can be your ultimate game day companion if you just give them a try. BetOnline, the game starts here. All right, so who are the players to target on these days? And there's quite a few, actually, and I tried to make it big enough so that you guys could actually read it on the screen. But if you're looking at Atlanta, George Niang has been ruled out. And this is why it's important to do these shows like kind of as late to the actual games as possible, because these pieces of news are going to break as we go. So Niang is out. Caris LeVert is a possibility on Atlanta if you're streaming for points or steals. And yes, I have put in parentheses the categories that you might be targeting if you're going to attack these guys. I can see that something is slowing my computer down right now. I don't know specifically what it is, but we're in it to win it at this point, so we're just going to keep on going. And I want to keep these shows somewhat brief, so I'm not going to stop on too many of these guys, but because this is the first one, I felt like we kind of needed to set it up a little bit. Terance Mann is a possibility with Atlanta if you're looking for just a little bit in a bunch of different categories, but nothing special in particular. Clint Capela, if you're hunting field goal percent, rebounds, and some blocks. Zaccharie Risacher for points and a couple of three-pointers. On Golden State, he's probably rostered, but Brandin Podziemski would certainly be the best option there if you're, and he can get you help in a bunch of different categories. Moses Moody, mostly for three-pointers, although he has been averaging close to a block a game over the last couple of weeks. And then Quinten Post, who's been filling in with a few extra minutes at center, mostly getting you threes and boards, but not at that great of a clip. The Houston Rockets are the third team we mentioned. Dillon Brooks is a guy who's kind of on and off of fantasy rosters and head-to-head leagues all season long. He really isn't good enough to be rostered all year, but he's good enough to be rostered when the schedule is nice, and he'll give you a pretty good chunk of threes and some steals and some points, actually, and I didn't write that one down. Or you could go Jabari Smith Jr. It's also, by the way, worth pointing out that like 2/3 of the Rockets are hurt right now or questionable going into this Monday game. So it's possible that you actually get some better stuff if you go the Rockets direction. Like, let's say, because we know Van Vliet is back out again. What if Amen Thompson is out? What if Alperen Şengün is out? Then you could throw someone like a Steven Adams in the mix. Although, again, getting one better game and then two kind of bad ones out of those guys, maybe that's not the world's greatest decision. And then Philadelphia, pretty much at the center position. Kelly Oubre Jr. is questionable, so maybe you could throw Justin Edwards into the mix, but we don't know if Oubre is going to play on the back-to-back. We don't know how long he potentially would be out if he is ruled out. So I think the safe plays, at least ones where you know you're going to get some stuff, would be Guerschon Yabusele, who's probably going to play enough minutes to get you some threes, some boards, and a couple of steals over his, remember we talked about Philadelphia, probably about a 4-game hold, or Andre Drummond, rebounds, steals, and blocks. Sometimes field goal percent, it kind of comes and goes with Drummond. He's not quite as reliable there. Rebounds and steals are probably the big ones. And I've also tried to bold, and it's not showing up as well as I'd like, but I tried to put bold on the few guys who has like really impact level categories. Caris LeVert in points, I think, could be an impact guy. Clint Capela in field goal percent could be an impact guy. And Andre Drummond in rebounds, I think, could be an impact guy. What if your league is dealing with the day ahead? Here are the teams to target on Tuesday. The Cleveland Cavaliers, again, this is tomorrow. On Tuesday, Wednesday, have a back-to-back. They also play Friday and Sunday. So back-to-back 3 and 4 and 4 and 6. The Clippers, and this is alphabetical by city, have the same, but also after that 6th night for the Clippers, they move into another back-to-back. So the Clippers are the best team to pick up on Tuesday because you could actually hold them through the following Wednesday, Well, it's 1, 2, 3, that's 9 days because you include Tuesday and then you include Wednesday as well. So you get a 6-game in 9-day bucket for the Clippers. Minnesota has the same deal as Cleveland, so it's a back-to-back, a 3-4 and a 4-6. And then the Knicks are sort of like your next tier down, but you could go the Knicks direction because they go 3 games in 4 nights, but not with a back-to-back at the front end. The back-to-back for New York is actually on the back end of that. So they play Tuesday, off Wednesday, and then they're on Thursday and Friday. Players to stream on these clubs, not as many as the options today. Cleveland is probably your best pocket because as they start to ramp up in games played, you're going to probably see Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland kind of ramp down in how often they play, meaning Ty Jerome is a really interesting source of points and threes and steals on, frankly, kind of a good percentage. DeAndre Hunter is a really nice source of points and threes. Max Strus is a guy that's not going to get picked up in a lot of spots because he doesn't do anything outstanding, but he'll get you some threes. He can get you kind of like a rebound assist combo. Not a big number, but also not nothing. The Clippers, as we mentioned, who have the best schedule, and that gives us an opportunity to maybe look at guys like Chris Dunn and Bogdan Bogdanovic. Dunn, and this one is bold, steals. Like if you need steals bad, Chris Dunn is going to be maybe the best option you've got on the board, possibly for, again, almost a week and a half, which also kind of simplifies how often you get to use your weekly moves. He also gets you some boards and some assists. He's not going to score very much. The Lakers were basically purposely leaving him open. They didn't send anybody to within 8 feet of him. And they were just like, look, if Dunn beats us, Dunn beats us, but we're not going to let James Harden do it. And they walled him off. That's why Harden had such a terrible ball game. And Chris Dunn had a bunch of extra opportunities because he was just open. So Dunn is a really good one. I think Bogdanovic is an interesting one. I don't know if he's going to play in the back-to-back, which makes me a little bit more nervous about Bogdanovic. But if he does, he's a pretty good source of threes and points, and we don't know when Norman Powell's coming back. And then Derrick Jones Jr. missed the last ball game, so I wouldn't go down that path unless he gets ruled in for the Clippers game tomorrow. But if he does, he could be a pretty good source of field goal percent and steals over that 9-day stretch. The other 2 teams that have good schedules starting tomorrow have very, very poor streaming opportunities. Minnesota's one of them. I would venture to say that Mike Conley is kind of the only name that comes up now with Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo both back in the mix. We're talking about, 20-ish, 22 minutes of Conley per game. And yeah, I mean, I get it. 3 games over 4 days. Does that give you 60-ish minutes of Mike Conley? Is that enough to get you, 12 assists and 2 to 3 steals? Maybe. That's probably all you're hunting for there. So it's a pretty low-end deal. And then with the Knicks, Deuce, Miles McBride, is kind of your only option there. He's been picking up most of the bench minutes, and he's actually had a couple of better games lately because a couple of starters have been not as good or in foul trouble, which means if the starters are good, then McBride might just not do anything. So not a big fan of the Minnesota and New York options. Cleveland and the Clippers provide the much better ones. And I would venture to say that of those 6 names I threw out, at least 3 are probably free agents in your league. My guess would be Derrick Jones Jr., Bogdan Bogdanovic, Max Strus are probably free agents. And then who knows about Dunn? He may have been picked up in your league. Maybe not. People might just be ignoring him because he doesn't score that much. Hunter probably is rostered. Ty Jerome is the one that I don't really know about either because he's tended to be more of an injury replacement kind of play. And that's basically the way you're going to do it. Obviously, you got to stay glued, I say, to the news wire. Underdog gets you the fastest stuff. They're going to be the one that aggregates all the information on the internet the fastest. I'll try to put out thoughts on Twitter when things break, but most of those are more about the full season kind of discussions. So for me, follow Underdog, who, by the way, they're one of our partners. So, and that's not why I'm bringing them up. They're just the fastest Twitter feed to follow if you want to get all of the information as quickly as possible when you're making your decisions. And then there's kind of 2 schools of thought as we wrap up here this first streaming episode of when to use your weekly moves. If it's day before, I mean, what are you going to do? It's a fab deal. You're going to put your numbers in overnight. Make sure to set a whole bunch of backups because you might put in a $2 bid on Chris Dunn overnight and you might not get him, but you don't want to get stuck with nobody. So, put in a $0 backup bid on Max Strus and a $0 backup bid on Bogdan Bogdanovic and whatever. If you're in a day of league, I would strongly suggest waiting until the last minute. I know you're going to miss out on key players. So just for example, we'll scroll back up and look at the Monday names. You might miss out on Caris LeVert. Someone else might pick him up at 12:01 a.m. Pacific time. But if you get to 3:30 Pacific time and LeVert gets ruled out, whoa, that team just blew a move on a guy that didn't even play. And believe me, I hate to say it, but that crap happens a lot the final 6 weeks, especially the final 4 weeks of the season. Not quite as much right now. It's a little bit more predictable. We usually get an injury report on these guys ahead of time that's like somewhat decipherable. So, if you wanted to go in the morning, I'm okay with that. Or if you wanted to wait until my streaming shows come out, this one's a little bit later than usual. I'll try to get them to you by around Pacific time lunch-ish going towards the future. But I wanted to set up the format today, so it took a little bit longer to kind of get prepped for it. But here's the thing. You might end up with Risacher instead of LeVert. Let's just take an Atlanta example. If they play all of their games this week, the guy who got LeVert is probably going to have a happier time of it than the guy who had Risacher. I can't argue with that. But if you wait and make your moves at the last minute, and the guy who got, let's again say LeVert, finds out last minute that he's going to miss a back-to-back, or he's going to skip a game because he tweaked an ankle or whatever, and all of a sudden you get 4 games out of your guy, and they only got 3 games out of theirs, or worse, maybe they only get 2. We can't think of that way. It really just has to be like that night. If you get an extra game, you win. Because the differences in these streaming options that I've thrown before you today are not large enough where someone can get an extra ball game, or lose a game, I should say, and still be the winner overall. Yes, some of these guys have particular sets of skills that work. Thank you, Liam Neeson. Dillon Brooks is going to play a lot of minutes, so he's an easier one to lean into. Or with Andre Drummond, you're going to get a bunch of rebounds. And so there's certain guys where you're like, okay, I could go a little earlier in the day. I know what I'm going to get. If I badly need this one statistical category, that may be another situation where you go earlier in the day. Oh my God, I really need rebounds and defensive stats. Crap, I better pick up Andre Drummond in the morning, as opposed to, look, I'm mostly just streaming points and threes, and LeVert, Risacher, Moody, Post, Brooks, Yabusele, all of those guys get you some of what I just described. So if you wait until later in the day, you can guarantee their health and guarantee the maximum number of games for yourself. So I would say lean towards a slight bit later in the day, unless it's really like a make or break, one guy, perfect specialist category attacking situation. That's when that guy maybe makes a little bit more sense. Man, it's that time, guys. It's that time. It's playoff time. You know what other time it is? It's time for UnderdogFantasy.com. Check them out today using promo code OLDMAN when you go to their website, UnderdogFantasy.com, or just click the link in the show description. And if you have to download it on a mobile device, then put in Old Man. But if it's on your browser or whatever, just click in the link. That'll handle the referral for you. And because of that, you will have access to 2 promos. Not 1, but 2. See it on your screen right now. You can get up to $1,000 in bonus cash on your first deposit at a 50% clip, and a free play on whenever you want to use that promo. I would actually recommend doing a few games to sort of get a feel for how it works, and then use the promo to really increase your odds of winning. So normally, you got to pick 2 squares. With the freebie, you only got to pick 1. Just pick higher or lower on any 2 names. You can go higher than that if you want. And 3x, 5x, 6x, whatever. Where was it in this video? There's the projections. If you look down at the bottom of the screen, if you're watching, you can see you pick 2 names, 3x, 3 names, 6x, 10, 20, 25, 40, 80x your entry fee by building out more names on your card. And it's again, you don't need to understand DFS to do it. You just need to have a few strong feelings on projections for individual players doing individual things, points, boards, threes, rebounds, assists, whatever. It's been a lot of fun, actually, to mess around with Underdog, and I hope you guys will do so with us using our promo code, and we can all hopefully win a few dollars together. Go get a free lunch every couple of weeks. That's the way I like to do it. Thanks for watching our first streaming show. This one's a solid 5 to 8 minutes longer than most of them are going to be, because we needed to sort of lay the foundation, but this is how it's going to be. Every day through the playoffs, that is our goal here at Old Man Squad. So subscribe to make sure you don't miss any of those. Don't miss any of our recap shows. Don't miss any of our DFS episodes from Brenton. Don't miss any of our baseball episodes from Joe. Don't miss any of our specialist episodes from Slick Rock. I'm Dan Bespris on Twitter, at Dan Bespris, thanking you for watching and reminding you to please save your weekly moves until they're just right. Good luck tonight, everybody. The playoffs begin. I'll see you tomorrow.